Hello and welcome to Linux Leech. In today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to install Linux virtually. So let's get started. Okay, the first step you want to take is to open up your web browser and you want to go to www.virtualbox.org. Okay, so we're going to download VirtualBox. Now this is free virtualization software. It's multi-platform, so it runs on Linux, Mac, Solaris, Windows, OpenBSD, plenty of operating systems, so it's definitely a cross-platform piece of software. We're going to click on the download link over here, and I'm going to download the Windows version because I'm running on Windows, and then I'm just going to save that to my desktop. Okay, while that's downloading, we're going to need to get ourselves a version of Linux. Now, I'm just going to go and download Ubuntu, but you can download whichever version of Linux you want to virtualize. It's totally up to you. So I'm going to go to www.ubuntu.com, and then I'm going to click on the Get Ubuntu button over here, and I'm going to go for the first option here, which is download and install option. And yes, I want the latest version, and 32 bits is fine. So now I'm just going to click the start download button over here and save that to my desktop. So while those download, I'm just going to pause the video and come back when they're finished. Okay, so our downloads have now finished. Now we need to actually install VirtualBox. So to do that, I'm just going to double click on the icon and click next to the first screen. Yes, I'll leave this all as default, so click next. And I only want a desktop shortcut, so I'm just going to deselect the other shortcut and click next. Okay, so now I've got a warning saying that installing the VirtualBox networking features will reset your network connection and temporarily disconnect you from the network. That's fine. If you are downloading something right now, I'd wait for your download to finish before clicking yes. As I'm not, I'm just going to go ahead and click yes. And then install. So during the installation of VirtualBox, you will get some pop-ups from the Windows Security Manager saying that this might be untrusted software. Do you wish to install or don't install? Just click on install. And there we go, we have now finished installing VirtualBox, so let's go ahead and click finish to launch it. And this is VirtualBox. Now at the moment we don't have any virtual machines, so we need to go ahead and create one. So to do that, we're just going to go ahead and click on this new icon over here, and this takes us to the virtual machine wizard, so we're just going to click next. Now we need to give our virtual machine a name, so I'm just going to call it Ubuntu, and then we need to tell it what operating system it is and the version in this OS type, these OS type options over here. Now if you noticed, it already selected Linux and Ubuntu because it looked at the name that I entered and it worked out that this is probably what I'm installing. It is correct, but if that doesn't happen for you, all you need to do is click down these drop down menus and select the operating system that you're going to install, and then for the version, select the version. So now we're ready to go ahead and click next, and we're onto memory. So we need to allocate some RAM to our virtual machine. You can allocate as much as you want by sliding this all the way to the end, or you can pick a certain figure that you want to allocate to the virtual machine. I'm just going to leave it as 512 for Ubuntu, as I know it's going to run fine with that, so I'm just going to go ahead and click next. Now at this stage we need to either create a new hard disk, which is a virtual hard disk, or use an existing one. I would always recommend creating a new fresh hard disk per virtual machine that you install, just to make things cleaner and easier, and it's always better to have a fresh installation. But by all means, if you have a reason to, you can use an existing hard disk that you've created and do it that way. But for our purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and click on create a new hard disk. So now let's go ahead and click next. Now VirtualBox allows you to create virtual hard disks with different image formats. This first image format, which is the VirtualBox disk image, is used by VirtualBox. I'm not sure if it's used by other virtualization software, but there's a strong possibility that it could be. If it isn't, and you do use other virtualization software, and you want to be able to move your operating systems around, then you could select one of the other disk image formats. But I'm just going to leave it as the VirtualBox disk image, which is fine for me, and click next. Now we've got the option to create a virtual disk that is dynamically allocated or fixed size. What this means is dynamically allocated will grow as your operating system grows. So as you start downloading updates for it or creating files, then you'll start to fill up the space that you've allocated. So if you've selected dynamically allocated, it will start to grow as your operating system grows. If you select fixed size, then it will always stay at the fixed size that you set it. Now, for my purposes, I'm just going to click fixed size so that I can give it a specific size that I want for that operating system. So I'm going to go ahead and click next now. And now we get to choose the size of the disk that we want. I'm going to leave it at 8 gigabytes because that's going to be more than enough. And click next. Now we're ready to create the virtual hard disk and the virtual machine, so we're just going to go ahead and click create. And while that's creating, I'm going to pause the video here and come back when it's done. Okay, so VirtualBox has finished creating the virtual hard disk and we're now ready to create the actual virtual machine. So all we need to do is click create and there we go. There's our new virtual machine. But at the moment it doesn't actually have an operating system, so we need to give it one. Now to do that, I'm going to go ahead and click on this storage tab down here, and we're going to click on this empty disk label in the storage tree. Then we're going to go over to this blank disk here, and we're going to choose a virtual CD/DVD disk file. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find where we downloaded our version of Linux to, and mine's on the desktop, which is just here. We're going to click that and click open, and then we're going to click OK. So now that we've told it where our installation disk is, all we need to do is click on the virtual machine in this window here and then click start. Okay, now we're greeted with this welcome screen where we can select our language, and we've got two options here. We can either try Ubuntu or install it. I'm going to click try because you can always install it at a later date. So we want to just have a look at the OS before we actually install it. And there we go, now we've got Ubuntu running inside of a virtual machine. At the moment it's not installed, but to do that you just double click on this desktop icon and follow all of the steps. I will be making a video on actually installing Ubuntu, so you can watch that and follow along with that. But there we go. That's the end of that tutorial. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow Linux Leech on facebook.com/Linux Leech and Twitter @Linux Leech. And as always, the show notes are available for this tutorial now over at linuxleech.com. Thanks again and goodbye.